Well, Kayla, that is the end of our news, and we have a pop in chat today, which I'm excited about because we are doing another fun discussion topic, and we have already had a lot of write-ins over on our Instagram page about games that we would want to be remade. I had this idea earlier today. I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about Resident Evil remake and Dead Space remake, and I realized we're kind of in this like age of remakes right now with those two
Yeah,
I
for
just
sure.
mentioned. Later this year or early next, we're going to be getting the Final Fantasy VII remake. End of last year, we had a remake of a Final Fantasy VII spinoff in Crisis Core Reunion. In the last several years, we've gotten Shadow of the Colossus, Demon Souls, Last of Us Part 1. We're going to get that on PC here soon.
Yeah,
Like there's rumors of Metal Gear Solid. We're getting a Silent Hill. Like remakes are a huge thing
it's the
now.
season.
'Tis the season for remakes, apparently. And I also kind of am of the opinion that usually they're like really good. Like I think
Hmm.
the Dead Space remake is the definitive way to play Dead Space. I think the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes are the definitive way to play those games. Like bringing it to the now is, I think, a great way to make them relevant again and also kind of reinvigorate an audience. And
Hmm.
so I asked the question to our audience, what are games that you want remade? I'm already seeing people drop some in the chat, which is great. But Kayla, let's start with you. What is a game that you would love to have remade today?
Okay, so I have a couple of different answers, but the
Yeah.
main one and the first thing that I thought of, um, I love Titanfall. I would love a
Ooh, okay.
remake of Titanfall. Now here's the thing. They Apex is, made Apex Legends is made by Respawn, who has made the Titanfall games. And so I don't think, unfortunately, that they will. I don't know if they will. I feel like they're really honing in on Apex and the like revenue that it brings in.
Yeah.
But so the original Titanfall came out in 2014.
Man, it
And
was that long ago.
yeah, did you play it?
I did. I did play the
Okay.
original.
So the original was multiplayer only. That's it, and you got pieces of the story that they were trying to build through different gameplay mechanics, through matches, through like taglines that the pilots and the Titans would like say, and the way you could hear like them communicating with each other. So I was very intrigued, even though it was multiplayer. Like the multiplayer ran super smooth, the wall running
Yeah,
was super
it was
fun.
really fun.
I really enjoyed it, and so then they came out with the second one, which was still good, but I would say there were some things I liked more about the multiplayer in the first one than the second one. The second one, you had a story, and the story was really good. I loved
Yeah.
it. Thought it was great. Did you play the
I did. I never
campaign?
finished the story, but I remember really liking what I played of it though. And
Yeah.
when I played the first one, I only played the first one for a little bit. I think I even rented it. I don't think I bought it because I'm not typically a big multiplayer guy. So I
Yeah.
wanted this story. So when the story came out in part two, I
Oh,
was
the
like, oh,
story
great.
was good.
Here, like, this is what I want. And then, I didn't ever finish it because I'm a fool.
I
But
see in the chat that you're saying no. 2014 was not a very long time ago. I know this, but I do feel like I do have some that are older that I can mention later. But I just think with the technology that we have now, especially with like on PlayStation, the Dual Sense, like I
sure.
feel like it could really they could do a lot with a remake. I feel like, and they actually recently killed the multiplayer for the first game. Like
Oh, that's
you
right.
can't, yeah, you can't get on the server anymore. You can't do anything. So I would love to see a remake of the. Well, technically, I would say a remake of the second game, I guess, would be the better way because the first one didn't have a story. But either way, a combination of the two to
Sure.
make a new
Well,
game.
something that I do think is cool about the way some remakes go, like Resident Evil 2, for example, it's unlike The Last of Us Part 1 or, well, I guess Dead Space was a little more on the Resident Evil 2 side, where like they kind of changed some things and
Mhm.
it wasn't just like quality of
Remake
life
versus
upgrades.
remaster.
Well,
Yeah.
there's that debate too, but like with Resident Evil 2, they kind of adjusted some of the way the story went and like
Mhm.
some of the paths that you go down. Like it wasn't just rebuilding the exact thing from the ground up. They kind of gave it a little bit of a spin. And Dead Space did that in a way. It was a little more one-to-one, but there were some things that they changed from a systems perspective to other than just rebuilding it. Like with The Last of Us Part 1, essentially was just the same game with better graphics. Like there wasn't much of an update to the gameplay of it. Um, So I could see with Titanfall them doing like a
Mhm.
remake of one and having like a story to tell in it too. Like
Yeah.
that could be cool,
That would be
for
really
sure.
cool, and then they could almost, like, essentially, like, add a story, like, almost like a prequel in a way. I think that would be cool, or
Yeah.
just a new game would be fine too,
Yeah,
but
yeah, for sure. I like that. From the chat, Archimero, Sly Cooper comes to mind. You're not the only one that said Sly Cooper. Friend of the show, Nick, wrote in on Instagram and said he would love a Sly Cooper remake. I would love a Sly Cooper remake because Sly Cooper is a franchise that I never really played much of. I played the remasters on the Vita, way back when that was a thing. But I would love like a remade Sly Cooper to like introduce me to those games like on the big screen. That'd be pretty cool. Um, Also seeing in the chat, Simpsons games. Simpsons Hit and Run would be awesome. Getting a remake
Did
of
I hear
that.
something about that recently in the news?
There were rumors about that for sure. There were like rumors about there being a Simpsons Hit and Run game that we just never heard from again. So I hope
Yeah.
that that is a thing because that's a type of game like the Crazy Taxi game style that they just don't make anymore, really. And
Yeah.
so I would definitely be down for that. But Arkham takes it a step further and says, I think it'd be really cool to remake Sly Cooper in the vein and style of an Uncharted game. Now, that's an interesting idea.
Ooh, that
Not
would be
only are we
cool.
remaking it, but we're kind of like reinventing
Restyling
it.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Um, Another one from a submission on our Instagram, friend of the show, Skylar. He says, quote, long overdue Dino Crisis. Are you familiar with Dino Crisis, Kayla?
No, I've not
So
played that.
Dino Crisis was a PlayStation 1 game. I only played a little bit of it at a friend's house because I never had a PlayStation, but it's essentially Resident Evil, but
Mhm.
the zombies are dinosaurs. Like same company
Ah,
that is a Capcom game, but it's very much like room to room survival
that
horror.
sounds fun.
But the thing you're fighting is like velociraptors and stuff. So
Right.
I think would make sense. I think that that's a good pull. One that I would love to say, Babylon Drifter in the chat alongside Guilty Remnant Smoker, two of my favorite people in our community. Barbie Supermodel for the Super Nintendo. If this
That's
is a
amazing.
game, if you were around last episode when I lost my mind about our top 10 games of our childhood, we talked a lot about Barbie Supermodel. Let's remake Barbie Supermodel.
I didn't play that one actually.
Man, what a
I did
game!
play a lot of Barbie games though. There was one where it was like the spy, like there was one where she was like a spy, like an undercover spy at
Carmen
a
San Diego,
circus.
or is it a
No,
Barbie game?
it's a Barbie game.
Gotcha.
It's
Sorry,
a Barbie game. I can't remember
I
the
didn't
name
play
of
that
the
one.
game.
But
Oh my gosh, I
let's
love Barbie
remake
games.
whatever that game is too. John hears the word Barbie Supermodel and he's gone because okay, we'll move on from Barbie Supermodel for now. John in the chat did say to go back, Katamari Damacy is probably what Cayman would be saying. I actually did get some answers from Cayman, even though he's probably
Oh.
completely gone somewhere. He said Dante's Inferno, or of course, if you know
Mm.
his life, Bulletstorm, the game he won't shut up about. That's a game I would love a Bulletstorm remake because then maybe I would actually play it. And then he also said Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, to which I say, I'm glad you're not here, Cayman. I'm glad you're not here. A real answer for me would be Fallout 3. I would really love to
Ooh,
see. So, I mean, it's not, this was a game that came out in like what, 2008 ish, 9 ish.
something like that, yeah.
Um, so it's not like super old,
Mhm.
but
I mean, I pulled a 2014 game for,
sure. But
so
like, I think it's a game that I think could really benefit from a remake.
Mhm,
Like, updating the systems, the graphics, making it feel more like a game in 2023 as opposed to a game in 2008, because like the story and the bones of that game are so good. I would love
mhm.
to, it's the kind of thing where like, it's a game that I would love to replay, but I'm less inclined to replay it because it doesn't feel great anymore to
And
play.
then sometimes you can almost, like, taint the memory of the game for yourself if you're
Yep.
playing it when it's, like and you're like, "Oh, man, this really doesn't look as good as I thought it
Yeah.
was back in
Or
the
like
day."
it's
So,
just
yeah.
not as fun as it used to be. Like,
Yeah.
to go back, Arkham Arrow mentioning a Sly Cooper game in the vein of Uncharted, I would love an Uncharted remake because that's a
Mhm.
game like the story still holds up and like the heart of it still holds up, but it's just not super fun to play in 2023 as much as fun as it was to play in 2007.
Yeah.
Like you might as well just play Uncharted 4, but like I'd love to experience the first game story again, but with like
Mhm.
a modern feel. So that's definitely
I
there's a
agree.
lot of, I think, um, a opportunity to make like to reintroduce those kinds of games to a new audience.
I agree.
John in the chat, let's just go wild and do open world Crash Bandicoot. Why
Oh,
not?
man.
Why not? I would love that. Kayla, what's
Um,
another one you'd love to bring back?
so another one I would love to see a remake of, would be Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. I really enjoyed that game. Came out in 2008.
Love that
I
game.
know they ported it to Switch fairly recently.
They did, but it's like the worst version of it. It's the
It
Wii
is
version.
terrible. It sucks.
It's so
And
bad.
so just remake it. I love the story of this game. I think that it is great. So I would love to see it remade. That is another one that I would really like. I think it would look beautiful on all the new consoles. Like I think they
Yeah,
could really
I
do a lot with
I
it.
that'd be dope.
Another one that I'll explain why I want this selfishly in a moment.
Okay.
I really would love to see Sonic Adventure 2 remade.
Yo,
Give me that
literally on
Shao
my
Garden in 4K.
give me that Shower Garden in 4K. Literally on my list on my notes app.
Really?
Sonic Adventure 2. Yes. We played so much Sonic Adventure 2 on the GameCube in my
Yes.
childhood. Like that's a game that certainly does not hold up
No, it looks
and
so good.
could really use a remake for sure.
I would love the Chow Garden in 4K. That's all
Yeah,
I'm saying.
that would be dope. Um, Liz in the chat, Rhythm Thief would be cool. That is a game I didn't play, but I just looked it up. It was a 3DS game. This game looks awesome. It's like a rhythm adventure puzzler that
Ooh,
looks. I would love to see. Like bring that to
those
the
are in right
Switch.
now.
Yeah,
Those are
bring that
really
to
in
the
right
Switch,
now.
dog. That would be great. Um, Also, another one from John in the chat. This is one that wasn't on my list, but I almost put it on my list, which is Def Jam Fight for New York. This was a like a fighting wrestling game, but with rappers that were on part of the Def Jam label.
Amazing.
So it was like Snoop Dogg fighting Sticky Fingers, fighting Fat Joe. Like it was a totally absurd game, but it was really fun. So that'd be a cool one to bring back.
um,
Um, yeah, what's another one you got, Caleb?
okay, last one for me that I can think of right now, unless one just comes to mind for me.
Okay,
I love the Ape Escape games. I would
sure.
love to see Ape Escape 3 is the one I spent a lot of time on. I feel like that would be a really good game for like I feel like it would do really well with a remake and it would do really well with the DualSense controller as well with all the different gadgets that you get in those
For
games.
sure.
Uh, this third one, the first one came out in 1999, second one came out in 2002, and then the third one came out in 2005. I know there's a bunch of
Wow.
spin-off games. There's a ton.
2005, really?
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
would have thought it was so much earlier than that was the last
No.
one.
2005. I think there's some other like smaller like spin-off games, I think. I think so. But those are like the main three ones. And the third one is the one I play the most. I
Yeah.
played a lot.
Well, a little piece of history, the first one is why the DualSense was made on the original
Yeah.
PlayStation.
And then
So, a little full circle
they
there.
yeah, and I think that it was the first PlayStation game to require use of DualShock, I
Yes.
believe.
Yeah, sorry. I said
Yeah.
DualSense. I meant DualShock. DualSense is
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
PlayStation 5 controller.
Mhm. I didn't know that
Um,
until I was looking up some things before the episode and I saw that and I
yeah,
was like,
yeah. Cool little piece of history there. Terry in the chat, I don't think it'd hold up or sell really well, but I selfishly would love a Guitar Hero reboot slash remake. Dude,
ooh. I think it would.
I think it would. I think if they
Yeah.
just if and not even a reboot, if they just re-released Guitar Hero 2 or 3, I think it would sell like gangbusters because they I want to say this was like 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago. They tried to like reboot or like
Mhm.
reimagine Guitar Hero. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was a whole new guitar, whole new system, and it just like didn't look fun.
Yeah.
And so release the black guitar, the slash guitar
Yeah,
with
hell
Guitar Hero
yeah.
3 again, dude. I would buy that so fast. It would be awesome.
I played a lot of the third one. I really
Yeah.
did. And I did
Yeah.
you have so I played I don't remember which I think it was the third one on my Nintendo DS with the little attachment. The little you like it was like the little is it fret? Is that
Frets,
what it's
yep.
called?
Uh-huh.
The little fret buttons that you like plugged into the side of your DS and the
So
little
I
I had a
didn't
little
have a
stylus.
DS, but I remember like hearing about Guitar Hero on DS and I was like, how would that work? And
Just-
now I know. How funny.
yeah. And a little like plug in little fret thing. It was actually really fun.
Yeah. Hey, get a little fret action on the Switch. I do it.
And the car
Um,
ride.
Yeah, like our trips to Florida. A couple of others from the audience. Nick had a couple others that he had written in with. After the Final Fantasy remake is done, I'd love Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy 9. I would love Chrono Trigger because that's another game I've not played. So like I
I have
would
not
love
either.
I would love like a new version of that to jump into.
Mhm.
And one that he said that was on my list, the original Lord of the Rings games on GameCube or PS2, The Two Towers and The Return of the King. They were like movie tie-in games, but
Mhm.
they were legit so fun. It was essentially like brawlers. They were like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles type game. You're fucking Aragorn or Legolas just like going left to right, killing orcs, and it was just a great time. So I would definitely be down with that. I don't remember if I called it out in the chat, but another one on my list that John mentioned that I think there have been it's been announced that a company is working on a new Fable game. What I don't
Mm.
know is if it's a remake or if it's like a
Mm.
new reboot. But I would love a reboot or a remake of the original Fable. But so yeah, I'm interested to see like what this new Fable game is. Is Fable a game you've ever played,
I
Kim?
have not, but I've had people tell me that it's something they think I would enjoy, but I've
I
not
think you
played
would
them.
vibe with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a third person kind of fantasy action adventure game, and that very
Nice.
much is like one of the first like mainstream games that really had a morality system, and whether you were good or bad would like drastically change the game,
Mhm.
which was cool. I would also love. We got it kind of recently on the Switch in the form of a remaster, but I would love a game that some people would say should have been on our list last week in our top 10 best games of our childhood, and that's Super Mario 64. I would
Ah.
love a remake of that game and fix things like the camera being janky and though like all those little quirks that like some people have like grown to love, that it's just like I think this game would be even better if it was remade, even like in the style of Odyssey or Galaxy or
Yeah.
whatever, like one of the new Marios, total reskin. You don't even have to put in new stuff. Just rebuild
Yeah.
it. I think that
It's
would
funny
sell.
it's funny you say that because Super Mario Sunshine is, like, one of my favorite games of all time, and it
Yeah,
was
I love
grouped into
Sunshine.
that, what was it called? 3D All Stars, I think
3D
is
All
what it was
Stars.
called,
Yep.
and I was so excited for that. That leads me to a question I was gonna ask you, like, is there any remakes that have happened that you were disappointed in?
Oh, sure.
Also, do you have any?
That's a good question. So remakes where like they were kind of rebuilt. I don't know how one off the top of my head, but I do have some remasters, which I think
Yeah.
that kind of falls more
Yeah.
under. The actually a game that I really it kind of answers both questions is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
This is a game that a company called Aspire was making that late last year there was news that it's kind of just been like put on
I remember
hiatus.
seeing that. Yeah, it got, like, it's kinda canceled, but
Yeah,
not
like kind of
really.
like shadow canceled, but like not really. And we've not really heard much about it. And that's a game that I think would be like if the remake ever happens, I think could be so good because the game is it's like it has such a great story and it's so fun and it was similar to Fable. It was like very much it has a morality system, but it's the same people who made the Mass Effect games before they made the Mass
Mhm.
Effect games. So it's this like sweeping epic in the Star Wars universe. But the remasters that you can play on Switch or iOS or any console, they just don't run super well. And like
Yeah.
there was an episode of our podcast last year that I ranted about. I was like 15 hours into um, a replay of the second game that I hadn't played since I was a teenager. And as I was like looking up something, I found an article that apparently it was impossible to finish the game. Like there was a game breaking bug in the remaster that they were working on a patch for, but once the patch happened, you would have to restart. So it's like bullshit. Like now
Ah,
I
dang, that
so I just
sucks.
stopped. I never
Ooh.
went back, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
15 hours is a lot of time to redo, so I probably won't be doing that anytime soon.
Yeah.
So that is
I
one that
get it.
really they really fumbled the bag on that one, and I hope that this KOTOR remake does happen so that they can also make KOTOR 2 and they work and they aren't
Yeah.
broken because that would be cool.
Mhm.
Kayla, I know you were a big GameCube. It's a system that we've a GameCube fan. It's a system we've talked a lot about. Did you ever
Yeah.
play a game called Eternal Darkness on the GameCube?
No, I didn't. Not
So
play
it's a
that
game
one.
we've talked about before. I think we talked about it a good bit during
Let me look it
our
up.
Spooklight Games episodes last October. It was a bit of like like kind of like a spooky-ish, like mindfuck kind of game. It was like card based, but it was a very ideas heavy game that in its
Mhm.
execution didn't always do, but it was a really, really unique game. And
Mhm.
I would love that.
It looks interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really interesting game. I would love that to be remade, but I would like for them to more so reboot it. Like because there are some things that I think you can fix and like make that game work better in 2023 and not I would be excited but a little disappointed if they were just like we're re-releasing the game. Like I would love for them to like take another crack at it and see like what you can do because the people that made that game that studio is long dead, but there's like interviews with them where they kind of talk very openly like it was very much an experiment, the game. And so
Mhm.
like experiments aren't always successful, right? So like I would love to
Yeah.
see like what have you learned and like what would you do differently? I think
Mhm.
would be pretty cool.
Speaking of,
Um
GameCube, one thing and I don't know, would the Super Mario Strikers be a remake or a remaster?
I would think that's just like like a new like a sequel more
Yeah, because it
so.
is different.
Yeah.
I just I
That
don't
was a
know.
bummer. That game was a
Yeah.
bummer, wasn't it?
It was, and I and here's another thing that it kinda makes me think about is, like, do I just hold this in my head in a higher place because of the nostalgia, or was it really that, like, good? Or am I thinking about it like, "Man, I love that game, I had so much fun." And so, does this that they remade or came out with not just, like, live up to the childlike nostalgia that I have in my head, or is it, like, just not good?
I
I
think
mean,
it's
kind of not good.
I think it's kind of a little bit of both. I think
Yeah.
it's like when we were kids, the games that we played were compared to the games now were so simple.
Yeah.
And so a
Kicking a
game
soccer
like
ball around, just kick it
right,
around and
like a game like Super Mario Strikers when we were, 8, 9, 10. What there was like a magic to it because like, "Oh my god, I'm Mario and I'm playing soccer." And now, like, that idea is fun, but when there's, like, nothing to do in the game but that, there's no, like,
yeah.
extra modes, you can't even play with, like, 4 of your friends, like
That was my biggest disappointment.
I know, so I it's the kind of thing where, like, I think there is, like, a disconnect that we have like we idolize these things from our youth that when we go back to them, it just doesn't hit anymore because
We
we've
kinda touched
played
on that too, yeah.
yeah, like because we've played God of War and The Last of
Yeah.
Us and like all these games that have evolved the way games are played so that when you go back to play GoldenEye on the N64, it really kind of highlights like what it's a good thing that games have evolved since that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's just
Um
something you have to think about, like, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm glad that they have, but yeah, it kinda makes the nostalgic games, like, if they get rebooted, remade, remastered, maybe lose a little bit of their luster if it's not done
yeah.
super well.
Or it's similar to like it's a little different, but it's similar like you watch movies from your childhood and it's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
wow. This movie says some things that I didn't realize were as
Oh,
bad as they were as a kid." I'm looking at
yeah.
you, Mrs. Doubtfire. It's like, man,
Yeah.
rewatching that movie, I'm like, "Ugh." So
Yeah.
it's similar except not problematic. It's just not fun in games.
Yeah. Same maybe
Um,
the same similar-ish feelings
yeah,
though.
similar-ish
Yeah.
feelings though. Last one I'll say is a PS3 game. I think it's a game that I think would really work, kind of that same like reboot vibe. Because if you just did it one to one, probably wouldn't work as well in terms of just a fun factor. But Infamous, did you ever play the Infamous
I
games
did
on PlayStation?
not. I did not.
So it was a
Infamous?
PS3 franchise. It came out in a time where there weren't many superhero games. It was either like right before or right around when the Batman Arkham games came out,
Mhm.
and
I really like those.
it essentially was like your
Ah,
like a
okay.
Spider-Man feeling because
Oh, they made Sly Cooper.
Yeah, same studio that did Sly Cooper. And the power you had was like electricity, so you could like fly with electricity somehow. It didn't really make sense. But it was really fun. It was like a run around the city, do side quests. It was like Grand Theft Auto if you were a superhero and you could either be good or bad.
Yeah.
And because it was in that same time period where like every game had a morality system. Um,
Mhm.
so because I'm pretty sure they're also is it are they the company that also went on to do Ghost of Tsushima? I believe it
Ooh,
is Sucker Punch. Yeah, so they're doing Ghost of Tsushima now. So like they're not gonna do Infamous, but I bet there's a studio that would, and that'd be pretty
probably.
cool. Let us
Surely.
know. But yeah, there's a lot of games out there that I think could use a remake. There are
Oh,
more on
for
my
sure.
list that I didn't get around to, but let us know in the comments. Send us an email, mail@spotlightgames.net. Send us a DM, Spotlight Games Pod.
Yeah.
Let us know what games we missed. Things like Assassin's Creed, which I didn't mention, but
Yeah,
we
there's
could we
so
could
many.
yeah, there's so many.
Black
We could
Ops
we
is another
could
one for me.
ooh, yeah.
Original Black Ops game.
We could keep going for hours and hours, but we're going to keep this show at a reasonable time since we went so long last week, but we do still have a couple things to talk about
Yeah, let's
after
get
we wrap up. So let's do a little bit of an update to the 2023 calendar. This is something we didn't cover last week, so have some catching up to do. Out
yeah,
now
yeah,
on
yeah.
Game Pass, Guilty Gear Strive, and out as of when this recording, or no, actually, this is next week. I keep getting the date wrong. On the 14th of March, Valheim is coming to Game Pass. On the 16th of March, we're getting Civilization 6. And on the 21st, we're getting
Ooh.
Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom, the Prince's Edition. Ni no
Ooh.
Kuni, a franchise I love. So
I
definitely
love
check that out.
I love the Civilization games,
I never played
personally.
6. I played a lot of 5, but I
Yeah.
never played 6.
Valheim
Um,
Valheim Valheim
Valheim, I think. Have you
Valheim.
played that?
I have not, but it's something I've been interested in, so hopefully it's on PC Game Pass as well, 'cause I'm
It
interested.
probably
We'll
is because
see.
it's a PC first game, so I think this is
Ah,
PC.
probably.
It might be PC Game Pass, but it might also be console. I should have double checked that, but I didn't.
It's okay.
Also, not a date, but it has been confirmed that we're getting a new Mortal Kombat this year, which is fun.
Oh.
Mortal Kombat 12. It was confirmed in an earnings call by Warner Brother Discovery.
Mm.
Also, for those of you that love Sleep, Pokemon Sleep is snoring its way into our hearts July 21st. Still don't really know what Pokemon Sleep is, but it's
I
happening.
don't either, but Snorlax. Hey.
Hey. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet also getting 2 separate DLCs, one this fall called the Teal Mask and one in it's weird. They say fall 2023 and then winter 2023. So I guess like maybe like September and then December, we're getting the
Maybe.
Indigo Disc.
Mm.
So yeah, that they didn't really show much. They just like kind of said it's happening.
Yeah. That
And then
sounds nice.
also Thursday, the day that this episode releases, Wave 4 of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC will
Let's
be released.
go.
So excited. We're getting a new Yoshi's Island course. We're also getting
Hell yeah.
Singapore Speedway and Bangkok Rush and Amsterdam Drift from the Mario Kart Tour game on iOS. We're getting Donkey Kong Summit from the Wii version. We're getting Riverside
Love that
Park
one.
from the Super Nintendo version. Also love Donkey Kong Summit. We're getting Mario Kart or Mario Circuit from the DS. We're getting Waluigi Stadium from Double Dash. And finally, Birdo will be a playable character,
Birdo.
which I can't believe. I said this when it was first announced, but I would have sworn
Me
on
too.
my life that Birdo was a playable character in Mario Kart 8, but I guess
Me
not.
too. I'm
And
excited
then
for that.
yeah, me too. I will definitely be playing that this weekend. And then final date update, only because Cayman would kill me if I didn't mention it. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi is coming back after a 15-year hiatus. I don't really know what this game is. I think it's a fighting game, but he's a big Dragon Ball Z fan. He's a DBZ
Nice.
head. So for any of you DBZers, Tony's not in the chat today, but I know Tony's big on DBZ. So
Mhm. My
Budokai
husband loves.
Tenkaichi. Your husband's a big DBZ guy?
Yeah. Mhm.
Well,
He was
I
in the
hope
chat.
he's thrilled for Budokai Tenkaichi coming back. And Kayla, that's our show. But so let's wrap it up before we go into spoilers and let our people go that have not played the games. So as I said earlier, you can follow the pod at Spot Games Pod on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Spotlight Games Podcast or on Instagram. No, Spotlight Games Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. Uh, if I could just get the same one in every place, it'd be easier. But hey, That's the way the news goes.
It's the best decision we've ever made.
God,
I was able to change it.
I know. I always think like, should I just rebrand so I can get something in the same place everywhere? But conversation for a different day. Kayla, remind the folks at home where they can find you, where they can find JK Games, where they can find Clickerbait, and anything else that you want to plug.
Yeah. I would love if you guys check us out on JK Games Podcast. That is essentially our tagline everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. You can check us out there. We love talking about The Last of Us. We also have Clickerbait. You can catch up on our previous episodes. That is present on all of our social media already. Reserving Dumpster Game Podcast
That's
for you.
good, John. That's good.
That is good. So yeah, you can follow me there. If you like books, I have a what is called Bookstagram. I post a lot of book reviews on Instagram as well. So if you read books, you should follow me there. I also used to, I don't really anymore, do some like makeup stuff over there as well. So my username on there is Palettes and Pages. If you want to follow me there, if you like books.
There you go.
But yeah, that's basically what I have. Yeah, every once in a while. Kind of got off that in COVID times, but
sure.
Yeah, that's really all that I have. I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah,
I can't wait to talk about Last of Us.
Yes.